Before communication theory became a modern academic field, it began with a problem that was already urgent in ancient Athens. Can speech lead people toward truth, or can it pull them away from it? In this first episode of Communication Thinkers Who Made History, we begin with Plato, the philosopher who feared that persuasion could become manipulation. Plato is not usually remembered as a communication scholar. He lived long before universities had departments of communication, media studies, or rhetoric. But he asked one of the oldest questions in the field. What happens when powerful speech is separated from truth? Plato's world was a world of public speech. In Athens, arguments mattered. Citizens debated politics, justice, law, education, and the future of the city. To speak well was not just a personal skill, it was a form of public power. Behind Plato's suspicion of rhetoric was the memory of Socrates. Socrates was condemned by an Athenian jury, and for Plato, this was not only a political tragedy, it was also a warning about public judgment. A city can be persuaded against the very person trying to make it think. Plato's target was not speech itself. His concern was a culture in which persuasive technique could be taught as a tool for victory. The Sophists trained people to argue, persuade, and succeed in public life. Plato asked, success at what cost? In the dialogue Gorgias, Plato presents one of the sharpest attacks on rhetoric in the history of communication thought. Through Socrates, he suggests that rhetoric can become a kind of flattery, pleasing the audience, winning approval, and producing belief without knowledge. The danger is not that speech persuades. The danger is that speech can persuade without making people wiser. Plato forces us to separate two things that often look similar: persuasion and knowledge. A person can be persuaded and still be wrong. A crowd can be confident and still be confused. For Plato, the central question was not simply whether a message works, but whether it helps the soul move closer to truth. This is why Plato matters for communication theory. He turns persuasion into an ethical problem. If communication can guide judgment, then it can also distort judgment. If speech can educate, it can also manipulate. Every communicator faces this tension. But Plato's view is more complex than simple hostility toward rhetoric. In Phaedrus, he opens the possibility of a better kind of rhetoric, one grounded in truth, knowledge of the soul, and careful attention to the audience. In other words, persuasion is dangerous when it is empty, but it may become noble when it serves understanding. We can translate Plato's concern into a simple communication model. A speaker does not merely send a message to an audience. The speaker also shapes belief, desire, judgment, and action. So the ethical question becomes, does the message serve truth, or does it only seek victory?
Plato's question has not disappeared. We still live with it in political speeches, advertising campaigns, influencer culture, news framing, and social media algorithms. A message can be persuasive because it is true, but it can also be persuasive because it is emotional, repeated, simplified, or beautifully packaged. Of course, Plato's suspicion of rhetoric has limits. If we distrust persuasion too much, we may also distrust public debate, democratic speech, teaching, storytelling, and civic leadership. Later thinkers, especially Aristotle, would argue that rhetoric can be studied systematically and used responsibly. That is where our next episode will go. Plato's legacy in communication theory is not a technique, it is a warning. Persuasion is powerful, but power without truth can become manipulation. To study communication, then, is not only to ask how messages work, it is also to ask what they do to the people who believe them. In the next episode, we turn to Aristotle, the thinker who did not simply reject rhetoric, but tried to explain how persuasion works. Next, Aristotle's ethos, pathos, and logos.